10 Things Gearheads Forgot About the BMW 507. BMW built the 507 to compete with other sports cars on the American market. Unfortunately, it flopped so hard that it almost bankrupted the company. By the early 50s, BMW had begun their post-war recovery. Leaning heavily on their motorcycle manufacturing, they had finally started to make their own cars. Up to this point they had been making cars under license, but their motorrad department had shown them a clear path forward. They had been making their own engines and chassis pretty much from the offset, so once they started making the 501, the first in-house developed car post-war, confidence was sky-high. When they took a look at the lucrative North American market, they saw an opportunity. Sports cars were getting popular, and they believed they could build something to meet that demand. 10. Classic Grand Tourer. Although back in the 50s this would have been classed as a sports car, it isn't really a true lightweight two-seater. It came with a large displacement engine and weighed in at around 3,000 pounds. This was a GT car, a beautiful one at that. 9. Advanced V8. Interestingly, the Corvette, which it shared more than just a passing resemblance with, was still using an inline-six back then. The Corvette, to its credit, was both faster and cheaper though. The 507 got its aluminum OHV V8 engine from the 502 series cars, which was advanced for the time. It made 150 horsepower, but had a fairly low reverend ceiling for a sporty car. 8. Beautiful design. Although it might look a little like the contemporary Corvette, it certainly wasn't made like a Corvette. The BMW was 100% handmade. All the cars were different as a result. As much as they were all aluminum-bodied cars, and they all looked more or less alike, they certainly didn't all come out the same. So much so that any cars that opted for the hard top could only use the one they were supplied with, the others would not fit. 7. Dedicated engineering. BMW were determined to build these cars to the highest possible standard, and it showed. All of them were works of art, clearly not something that could ever be made in large numbers. In many ways they were victims of their own diligence because their German approach to building this car meant production costs spiraled out of control. 6. Elvis bought 2. These cars were always going to target the American elite. Their customers included several celebrities, but none so prominent as Elvis Presley. He loved the car so much that he bought a second, likely the only person in the world to ever own more than one of these rare cars. 5. Sales failure. Unfortunately, even with the celebrity clientele, they were unable to shift as many as they had hoped. They had hoped to keep the sticker price at around $5,000, but in the end the cars were getting sold for double that. Although they were worth it, the potential market shrunk to such an extent that they were only able to sell 254 cars over the 3 years it was in production. It was such a dismal failure for the brand they almost went bankrupt. Rather awkwardly, the Assetto, another car made under license, saved them from that humiliation. 4. A bit slow. Unfortunately, even with the lighter all-aluminum body, and the advanced OHV engine, the car could only get from 0 to 60 in 11 seconds. It is arguably their biggest failure. Whether it was down to some sort of drivetrain fault we cannot say for sure, but it just seems strange that heavier, less powerful cars were actually quicker. 3. Excellent promotional tool. Although it brought the company to its knees, it also showcased what they were capable of, and what real, German, engineering was. It laid the foundation for the immensely successful decade that followed. American buyers didn't care much for the overpriced sports car, but they were all too happy to fork out a little extra for their well-built sedans. 2. Unrealized potential. A little more market research would almost certainly have gone a long way. If they had just spent some time and effort studying the market, they would have quickly realized that they didn't need to be the best, they just needed to be better than what was currently on offer. If they made the car with normal steel, and it weighed a little more, priced it accordingly, we wouldn't be talking about how rare they are today. 1. Extremely valuable. With only 254 built, they are incredibly rare. Collectors have also now recognized the craftsmanship that went into these cars and are now willing to shell out 7 figures for cars in good, restored condition. So if you want one of these beautiful cars, you better be prepared to pay well in excess of $1 million.